తిను తీసుకో. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining. Sunil here. Can you hear me? Please give confirmations in the chat box. Thank you. Thank you for your responses. Thank you very much. Let's get started to one of the most important service. The key service, the most important from the interview point of view, from the real industry point of view is VPC. Okay. So what's our plan for today's session? Please have a look at this. Okay, sorry, not this one. What is VPC? By this end of the session, you'll understand what you mean by VPC. Stands for Virtual Private Cloud. We'll also understand the term called subnet, very, very important. We'll get into practicals of creating VPC, creating subnet, and there are two types of subnets. One is public subnet and private subnet. What is the difference between public subnet and what is the difference between public and private? When should we go for public subnet? When should we go for private subnet? So all these are our plans for today's session. So before getting into the concepts, let's have an interaction, okay, with some of the participants, starting with Vikram Kotalwar. Yes, Vikram, your question, please. You are allowed to unmute. By default, you'll be on mute, Vikram. JC Reddy, good evening. How are you doing? Your question, please.
Hello.
Yes, Vikram, we can hear you. Hello? We cannot hear you, Vikram. We cannot hear you again, Vikram. Please check your audio settings.
Hello.
Hello, Reddy. How are you doing?
Hi. Yeah, fine. Good evening, Sunil.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Yes.
So from day one, I'm trying to.
Thank you, JC. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah,
How is your learning going on?
Yeah, fine, good.
Yes.
Actually, recently I relocated from the Hyderabad to Bangalore.
May I know your experience?
Right now, yeah, I have almost 12 years of experience in infrastructure, IT infra.
Okay.
So
okay.
I'm planning to move AWS and DevOps.
One of so this your IT infrastructure is on on-premises infrastructure data center or is it on cloud?
Yes, it's on-premises only.
Okay.
So actually, I have an work experience on educational sector. You heard IBS.
Yeah.
In yeah, right now I'm working in Reva.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Learn as you are already from the infrastructure background. Learning this AWS will be always an advantage.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yes. One of my friend already moved in DevOps. So
okay.
I'm also.
Okay. So your friend is he from our old participant or from a different?
No. He's from somewhere.
Different institute.
Different institute, but he only referred your link.
Okay.
I already referred it. I also referred so many friends and
thank you.
My previous organization and my new organization.
Okay.
In new organization also, my manager also joined.
Oh my God! Convey my regards to him. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
His name is Muniswamy.
Yeah, Muniswamy. Thank you. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any technical question, Jesse?
Yeah, actually, in a root, in ADF players, in root user, how many AM users we can create?
There is no limitation.
You
can have a number of users.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, JC. Thank you very much. Okay. Let's get into the concept of VPC. Okay. Look at the theory. Now, what did VPC? First, let's try to understand this theory, and then we'll also get into the practical approach of understanding the concept. Look at these statements. VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud, is a virtual data center in the cloud. Okay. VPC lets you provision logically isolated section of AWS where you can launch AWS resources in the virtual network. It's a virtual data center in the cloud. It is a isolated section of AWS data center. Okay, let's move on to next slide. What all components VPC can consist of? VPC can consist of internet gateways, route tables, NACLs, subnets. One subnet equal to one availability zone. NACS are stateful and stateless in nature. Security groups are stateful in nature. All this we'll see practically. Each subnet, okay, this is theory. Again, we'll get into practicals. So it's the difference between security groups. Okay, fine. So what the theory says, VPC is a virtual data center in the cloud. It is a logically isolated section of AWS. Let's try to understand. Let's make it simplified. Let's make the concept simplified. Assuming this white space, whatever you are seeing on my screen, the white space, what you are able to see in the scene in my screen, is assuming AWS data center. It could be Mumbai region or whatever. Assuming this is a Mumbai region, the white space is nothing but the AWS data center. Creating a partition in AWS data center, creating a partition in AWS data center is called as VPC. What is VPC? VPC is a partition in the AWS data center. It could be Mumbai region. Let's say specific to Mumbai region. If Mumbai data center, creating your own partition in a specific AWS data center, example Mumbai region, is called as VPC. It's a partition. It's a logically isolated section within the AWS data center, is called as a VPC. Whenever a client wants to migrate their servers, whenever a client wants to create the infrastructure in AWS, whenever client wants to create their servers in AWS, the first thing what the client will do is to create a VPC. Once the partition is created, then we'll create the EC2 machines inside the VPC. You may create 10 machines, 100 machines. You may create 10 machines, 5 machines. You may create 100 machines. You can create 1,000 machines. That's up to you. Create your EC2 machines inside your own partition, which is allocated to you. Right from day one, what we are doing, we don't know about VPC, right? What from day one, what we are doing in the AWS data center, we are selecting to Mumbai region, directly creating servers in EC2 machines in directly in Mumbai. That's not the right approach. Right from day one, we are going. What we are doing, we are connecting to AWS. We are selecting Mumbai region, directly dumping the EC2 machines, whatever you want to create. You're creating. It can be 5 machines or 10 machines. You're directly creating in Mumbai. That's not the right approach. Don't directly create EC2 machines in the Mumbai data center. No, that's not right. What AWS says, first create a partition. Create a partition in Mumbai. And then once the partition is ready, then create the EC2 machines inside the partition. So you have to follow this process. What is the advantage? You may have a question. So why should we create a partition? Right from day one, we have never created a partition. Right from day one, what we are doing, we are launching the EC2 machines directly in Mumbai. You are doing that. That's not a secured approach. If you create a partition and then create the EC2 machines inside your partition, this is the right approach. This is more perfect approach, which increases one layer of security. How VPC increases security, we'll see that in the coming classes. So in the interview, they'll ask you, what is the first step the client will do when they get into AWS? Once the client has decided to move all the servers in AWS, what's the first step the client will do? The first step what the client will do is to create a partition in the data center. That partition which we create inside the data center is nothing but VPC. Virtual private cloud, private partition. Once the partition is ready, then you can create your infrastructure in the partition. You can play around whatever you want. You could do it in your partition. Create a partition in the AWS data center and then create the EC2 machines inside your own partition. That partition which we create inside the AWS data center is nothing but a VPC. Clear about this? Perfect. I'll give you more examples. Some examples to make the concept very simple. I want to buy a plot. Let's say 200 square yards. I want to buy a plot in city outskirts. Okay, I want to buy 200 square yards of plot in city outskirts. Okay, so I go to a venture. So already in that venture, the partitions will be ready. So you want to have, there's a continuous layout, right? You'll have 200 square yards of plots. You have 400 square yards of plots. You want 100 square yards of plots. You want 1000 square yards of plots. Already partitions. So you have to select the partition and then create your building or create your house inside your partition. So inside your plot. You cannot directly create the building in the real estate in the acres of land, right? First you will define your own boundaries. My plot is 200 square yards, the length is 30 is road facing and depth is 40. So we create a partition and then you create the infrastructure, you create a building as per your requirement within your plot. Clear? So partition. I want to buy an apartment. Already builder has given partitions, right? In one floor, there are 4 partitions. That 4 partitions are about 4 apartments. You select a particular partition and create your infrastructure inside your partition. That is inside your apartment. So partition which you've done it in the AWS data center is called as VPC. That's important. You have to do it. Whenever clients decide, okay, I have 100 servers, okay, I don't want to maintain in my own data center, let's go to AWS. When clients decide that, okay, they want to go to AWS, what is the first thing they do? First thing they do is to create a partition. They select, okay, let's go in Mumbai region. So the moment they select a Mumbai region, they create a partition. Once the partition is ready, go again create the EC2 machines inside the partition. That's the right approach. Again, I'm coming back to the same point. The partition which we create in the Mumbai data center is called as VPC. Obviously, next question, Sunil, how to create a partition? Show me. Let's do that. Let's experience. I want to create a partition and I want to create EC2 machines inside the partition. Let's do that. I want to create a VPC. Okay. I want to create a VPC. Let's do that. Okay, let's get into the practical. Let's show you. Within no time, I can create a partition in Mumbai data center. Okay, let's do that first. Look at this. Virtual private cloud enables you to provision logical isolated section of AWS. I want to create a VPC. VPC is nothing but partition. Let's go. Let's create it. Let's log into AWS. What is there in it? Let's make it simplified, boss. Let's log into AWS. Logged in. I've logged in. As you can see, I've connected to Mumbai region. I want to create a partition in Mumbai region. Creating a partition is nothing but VPC. Under services, under networking and content delivery, there's a service called VPC. Got it? Under services, under network and content delivery, we have a service called as VPC. Let's go ahead. This is how a VPC dashboard looks like. This is how a VPC dashboard looks like. Can you see your VPCs? Select your VPCs. There's a default VPC available. By default, you can see one VPC in your AWS account. This is a default VPC. Please don't disturb the default VPC. My dear friends, I've logged into VPC service. By default, you can see there's one VPC. Don't disturb the VPC. I have seen many people disturbing the VPC and they again calling to customer care. If you want to talk to customer care, you can go to an account. There's an option called help where you can get the help. But don't disturb the default VPC. Don't disturb the default settings. So there's one default VPC. Don't worry about the default VPC. What we want to do, we want to create our own partition in Mumbai, right? So that's what. Let's go ahead and create a VPC. When you're creating a VPC, I repeat, we are creating a VPC. Fine. When you're creating a VPC, you need to provide IP address followed with subnet mask. When you're creating a VPC, you need to provide IP address followed with the subnet mask. I am creating a VPC. The name of the VPC is my VPC. What is the name of the VPC I'm creating? VPC name can be anything. It can be my name also. It can be your name also. The name of the VPC which I'm creating is my VPC. And when you're creating a VPC, you need to provide IP address followed with subnet mask. The IP address what I'm providing is 10.0.0.0/16. 16 is subnet mask. The value 16. The value 16, okay, is called as what? The value 16 is called subnet mask. Okay. You may have a question, why should we provide subnet mask? What is the importance of this 10.0.0.0? Why should I writing 10.0.0? Can I write 20.0.0? Why should I write 0000? Can I write 10.1.2.3? It's up. All your answers will be, all your questions will be clear. First, let's go ahead and create a partition in the Mumbai region. Create VPC. What is the name of the VPC we are planning to create? What is the name of the VPC, my dear friends? What is the name of the VPC? My VPC. This is the name of the VPC. Here you have to provide the IP address followed with the subnet mask. What is the IP address? The 10.0.0.0/16 is the IP address followed with the subnet mask which I am creating. That's it. Go ahead and create. I am done with creating a partition. You have successfully created a VPC. Now tell me, is it creating a VPC difficult? Not at all. Now you can see your VPC. There are two VPCs. This is the default VPC, and you know we should not disturb the default VPC. That is by internal use of AWS, and this is the new VPC which you have created. The my VPC. What is IP address followed the subnet mask 10.0.0.0/16? So I'm done with creating VPC. Now how much time it will take to create a VPC? Within no time. What are the values you have to provide? Provide the IP. Provide the name of the VPC. IP address followed the subnet mask. Yes, that's it. You're done with creating a VPC. Okay. Now let's try to understand what is this IP address followed with subnet mask. Before telling you about the importance of this IP address, first I want to show you about I want to explain about the subnet mask. What is the value of the subnet mask which I am using in this example? That the value of the subnet mask is 36. What is the importance of 36? I'll explain it. The maximum subnet mask value, the maximum subnet mask allowed is 32. That's the maximum number allowed. You cannot use more than 32. That is fixed. Networking concept. Look at the documentation. The maximum subnet mask value allowed when you're creating VPC is 32. How much value which I have used in my example? 16. What does that mean? Your subnet mask value will determine the size of the VPC. The subnet mask value will determine the size of the VPC. Now you have created a partition, right? What is the size of the partition? How many EC2 machines I can create? Can I create 10 machines in this partition? Can I create 100 EC2 machines? Can I create 1000 EC2 machines? Can I create 5000 EC2 machines? What is the size of this VPC, Sunil? You may have a question. The size of the VPC is dependent on the subnet mask value you have used. What is the subnet mask value you have used in this example? 16. So when you use 16, what will be the size of the VPC? Look at the calculation. The maximum subnet mask value is 32. In 32, what is the subnet mask value you have used in this example? 16, you have to subtract the subnet mask value which you have used from the maximum number. When you subtract 16, the result is 16. So the size of the VPC is, 2 to the power of 16. My dear friends, the size of the VPC is 2 to the power of, 2 to the power of 16. The result is 16, right? So 2 to the power of 16. What's 2 to the power of 16? 2 to the power of 2 to the power of 16 is how much? 65,536. That is the size of my VPC, boss. I can have 65,536 EC2 machines inside my VPC. Clear? Clear about the size of the VPC when you're creating a partition. What is the size of the partition? You may have a doubt. Isn't it? The size of the partition is dependent on the subnet mask value you have used. Clear? Clear about this? Dependent on subnet mask value you use. I'll give you one more example. Example, when I'm creating a partition, I have provided 10.0.0.0/20. Assume. Then if I use this value, what will be the size of the VPC? Let's calculate. What is the maximum number? What is subnet mask value? Maximum 32. What I have used? Use 20. Subtract 20 from 32. So what is the result? The result is 12. The size of the VPC is 2 to the power of 12. What's the 2 to the power of 12 value? 4096. So that's the concept. 4096 is the VPC size when you provide a value as 20. That means 4096 machines, you can create it inside your VPC. Okay, when you're creating a partition, when a client wants to move their infrastructure on AWS, okay, so first as an AWS engineer, we'll study the existing infrastructure. If a client is using on-premises infrastructure, we study the existing infrastructure. My dear client, how many servers you're having? We'll ask the data center providers. So how many servers you are using? You are having 1,000 servers? Are you having 2,000 servers? Are you having 5,000 servers? Are you having 6,000 servers? What is the size? Existing size will define it. We'll understand what is the size, and accordingly we'll build the VPC. Anyways, this can be modified. You can increase or decrease. That's not a problem. But determining the size of the VPC is dependent on the subnet mask value you have used. Determine the sizing of the VPC is dependent on subnet mask value. If you use 16, the VPC size is 65,000 machines. If you use 20, the VPC size is how much? 4,096. If you use 30, so when I'm creating a VPC, if I use 10.0.0.0/30, let's go with the calculation. The maximum number is 32, and out of this, in my VPC, I have used a value called 30. So the result is 2. So the answer is 2 to the power of 2. That's nothing but how many machines you can create? Only 4 machines inside your partition. That's it. The higher the size of the subnet, the lower the VPC size. Clear? Clear about this? So that's how you will be determining the size of the VPC. I hope I'm very clear in showing you in determining how can we define the size of the VPC. Clear? In my VPC, which I have created one partition in Mumbai data center. Obviously, it is in Mumbai data center. And my partition can have, the name of my partition is my VPC. And that partition can have 65,536 machines. I am clear in explaining the importance of subnet mask. I'm clear in explaining you the importance of subnet mask. Your question, please. Yes, Pooja Prasad.
Hi, Sunil.
Yes.
You said that
Clear about this example, first of all, whatever the calculation I have explained. Pooja?
Yes.
Yes.
Clear about this. What I wanted to ask is if I give max 32 only, then there will be
okay. No... One minute. If you provide a value as 32, maximum number is 32, right?
Correct.
You have provided is 32. 32 minus 32 is 0. That is nothing but 2 to the power of 2 power. 2 power 0 is nothing but 1. That means you can have only one EC2 machine. Okay.
Okay.
You can have only one part. 2 to the power of 0 is how much, Pooja?
2 to the power of is 1, 0, right? Sorry, I was confused.
2 to the power of 0 is how much? 2 to the power of 0 is 1. Anything to the power of 0 is 1. That means you can have only one EC2 machine in your partition. Am I clear?
Right.
Am I clear?
Right.
Perfect.
Okay.
Anything more?
And this 10 dot this, we can give any
number. There is no much important. These are private IP addresses. Okay. 10.0.0.0 is nothing but the private IP addresses. In continuation to the discussion you had, Pooja, now I'm answering. Whenever you create an EC2 machine, have you observed? Whenever you create an EC2 machine, have you observed, Pooja, there will be two IP addresses. One is public IP address.
And private.
The other one is private. You're right.
Yeah.
Let's experience that. This is one EC2 machine, Pooja. Okay, right now the machine is stopped. Okay, so you'll have one public IP, the other one is private IP.
Private
Okay?
IP.
If you want, private IP is nothing but within our internal use. Okay,
Hmm.
private IP is something like with our internal use. Okay, so if you want to have your own series, so let's say for example, all my EC2 machines, whichever I'm creating in my partition, should start with some number called 10 dot some number. Okay, in such case, that's the importance of it, having our own series. So you are controlling your IP address series. So according to the VPC, according to the IP address value you have provided, every IP address, every EC2 machine will have private IP address of what? In this example, Pooja.
Yeah.
In this example, when I say 10.0.0.0/16, first point you have to understand that the size of the VPC is 65,536 EC2 machines you can create. Agree?
Correct.
Next, whenever you create, let's say you're creating an EC2 machine. You are creating an EC2 machine inside the VPC. That EC2 machine private IP address will definitely start with 10 dot.
Okay, 10 dot. Okay.
It starts with 10 because you have hard coded the value 10, right?
Okay.
Can be 10.0.0.0. Can
Okay.
be. If you create one more second EC2 machine, it will be 10.0.0.1.
Yes.
If you create third EC2 machine, 10.0.0.0.2. Okay, if you create fourth EC2 machine, it will take 10. It's in your control. Okay, so if you want your own your EC2 machines to take your own series of IP addresses as per your requirement, you can write 10. Let's say Pooja, you don't want 10 series, you want 20 series, you can write 20.0.0, some number. Okay, got it?
Okay.
Clear
And
about this?
Yeah, that is clear. And there will be no conflict in the IP address, like if somebody is already using.
No, you will not. This is local to your VPC.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
This is within your VPC. Okay.
Okay.
Got it?
Okay. Okay. Got
For
it.
example, Pooja, you are living in an apartment. Okay. Your apartment number is 405. That is local to your flat, right? I am also living in an apartment. I can have 405, my flat number also, isn't it? That's local to my apartment. Agree or not? In the same way, these IP addresses are local to your VPC. Okay.
Got it.
Got it clear, Pooja?
Got it. Got it. Thank you very much, Sunil. You're doing a very good job.
Thank you very much.
This is the first time that I got a chance to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate all your efforts.
Thank you for your feedbacks. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dayananda B. Dayananda B. I can see your hand raised. You are yes.
Hi, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Dayananda. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, sir. Thank you.
First point, do you know this VPC or is the first time you're learning?
No, first time I'm learning. Sir.
Okay. Clear about whatever I have explained?
Yes, sir. I understood everything, but I have a question regarding the subnet mask. I did not understand this part.
Okay.
What is this subnet and all?
What is this?
You mentioned about subnet mask, right? And then we are doing all this subtraction and all to, yeah. Okay. That part I did not understand.
So you don't understand what is 16?
Yes.
That's your question.
Yeah.
You don't understand what is 16. Agree,
yeah.
Dayanand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did I create a VPC in today's session?
Yes.
Did I create a VPC?
Yes.
Okay.
My VPC.
What is the name of the VPC?
Yeah, it is my VPC.
What is the IP address series you have provided? We have used in the VPC?
10.0.0/16.
10 IP address is 10.0.0.0. Okay. And what is the subnet mask value I have used?
16.
16. Now you want to know about what I mean by 16.
Yes.
Why did we use 16?
Yes, sir.
When I am creating a partition, when we are creating a partition, that means when you are creating a partition in the Mumbai region, that is when you're creating a VPC, we should be very clear what will be the size of the VPC. How much should be the size of the VPC? Okay. So how can we determine the size of the VPC? We can determine the size of the VPC based on the subnet mask value when you have used at the time of creating the VPC. Okay.
Yeah.
The size of the VPC is dependent on the subnet mask. What is the subnet mask value which I have used it in this example?
16.
16. Now look at the calculation. The maximum number allowed as per the VPC concepts is 32.
Yeah.
Maximum subnet mask number allowed is 32. Out of 32, what is the number I have used?
16.
So the calculation behind determining the size of the VPC is this one. You have to subtract the number which you have used from the maximum number. Okay.
Okay.
Maximum number is 32. I have subtracted 16 there. Okay. The result is what? 16.
16.
So the formula is 2 to the power of result. 2 to the power of 16.
16.
So what's the 2 to the power of 16?
65,536.
That's the size of the VPC. That means in this VPC which you have created, you can have 65,536 EC2 machines only.
Okay.
That's it. If you want to create 70,000 EC2 machines, it's not allowed because the size of the partition which you have created is maximum of 65,536 EC2 machines. Clear?
Yeah.
Clear then?
Yes. Thank you, sir. And one more query.
Yes.
And you started the subnet mask series from 16 onwards. Can I start with 0, 1, 2, 3, or
you can do? Okay. For example, Dayanand. Huh?
Yeah.
Let's say we are not using 10.0.0.16. I'm using 10.0.0.0/ let's say 6.
Yeah.
Assume.
Okay.
Now tell me the calculation. What's the maximum number allowed?
32.
1 minute. Now let's go with the calculation. What's the maximum number allowed? 32. What is the subnet mask we used in this example? 6. 32 minus 6 is how much?
26.
26. The formula is 2 to the power of
26. Okay.
So what's the value? Units, tens, hundreds, thousand, 10,000, lakh, 10 lakh, crore. 6 crore 71 lakh EC2 machines are allowed in this partition. Okay. How many EC2 machines we can create in this partition when you write 6?
6.7 crores.
6 crores 71 EC2 machines are allowed. Yeah. Do you think clients these many number of instances? No. Okay.
No.
So that's how. So the bigger the partition you want, you can go ahead and create it. That's not a problem. Okay.
Yeah.
Clear, Danan? Am I clear in explaining
yes,
the importance of subnet mask? Okay.
Yes, sir. It's clear.
And one more important point I want to tell you: clients will get the bill not based on the size. Okay. Client will get the bill not based on 60. Let's say assuming I have used 16 only. That means 65,000 machines I can create, right? The moment you create a partition, you will not get the bill. You will get the bill only when you create EC2 machines inside the partition. Okay. If you don't create EC2 machines, you will not get the bill also. Okay. So only the billing is dependent on the number of EC2 machines which you have created. If you are not creating EC2 machines, you will not get the bill for the partition. Partition is free. Okay. And which will only when the EC2 machines are created inside the partition, then only you get the bill. Clear, Dayanand?
Yes, sir. All clear. Thank you.
Pawan Tiwari.
Hello.
Yes, Pawan.
Yeah, hi, good evening.
Yes, Pawan. Your question.
Thank you for the chance.
Thank you.
My question is already covered. Actually, my question is regarding billing. So
okay. So when you create a partition, you will not get the bill. Partition is anyways free. Okay. You will get the bill only when you create EC2 machines inside the partition. Then only you will get the bill. Okay, Pawan?
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Sikandar Khan.
Hi Sunil, how are you?
How are you? I'm doing well, Sikandar. How are you? And you're from which location?
Yeah, I am from actually Scotland.
Scotland.
Yeah.
My friend stays in Scotland.
Oh, okay, that's good to hear.
Okay, yes, your question.
Yeah, my question is actually...
He works for Scotland government. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can I know his name?
He's Mr. Raja Rao.
Okay.
Works in Oracle platform.
Okay, sure. So my question is actually, I understood the concept totally, but yes, my question is, if we are using 16, we are getting more number of EC2 machines, the number of machines. But if we use 30 or 32, we are getting the less.
Yes, you are right. That's the calculation. Okay. The lesser the subnet mask, the higher the value of, higher the size of the VPC. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's the calculation. Sikandar.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything more, Sikandar? Clear? Everything what we have done. So whenever client will create the servers, Sikandar, servers are nothing but technically EC2 machines. Am I right? Yeah. Whenever we create a EC2 machine, so first step what we have to do, we have to create a partition. And then we will be creating the EC2 machines inside the partition. Okay.
Okay, so basically we will collect the number of servers from the client.
Existing infrastructure. We'll study the existing infrastructure, how many servers they're having. Accordingly, we'll be creating the VPC.
Okay, sure.
Okay,
Thank
perfect.
You. Thank you.
Okay. So we are now familiar about the concept of VPC. VPC is all about partitioning. So you know how to create a partition. It's always good practice to create a partition. Yes, now you're in a position to create partition in Mumbai data center. We already have created partitions. Next thing. What is VPC? Okay. VPC is nothing but a partition in Mumbai region. Fine. Understanding subnet. This is different term. Many people confuse between subnet and subnet mask. Subnet is different. Subnet mask is different. Many interviews, people use different term. They have to use subnet mask instead of subnet mask. They use subnet. Subnet is different. The term subnet is different. The term subnet mask is different. Please don't exchange the terms. Both are completely differential concept. Subnet mask is nothing but the number which you provide at the time of creating the VPC. Let's go to the fresh diagram. So we have created a VPC. Okay. Okay, we know the name of the VPC is my VPC. And the IP address series which we have used along with the subnet mask value, what we have used is 10.0.0.0/16. So the value 16 is called as subnet mask. Pretty clear. The size of the VPC is dependent on the subnet mask value you have used. So you also know the calculation. The maximum number is 32, and then we have to subtract the number 16 from the 32, and the result is 16. So the value is 2 to the power 16. That's nothing but 65,536 missions or whatever it is. Okay, so this is the size of the VPC. Pretty simple. Okay, now let's move on to the next term. Let's move on understanding the next term called subnet. Okay. Once the partition is created, client wants to create EC2 machines. EC2 machines are servers. Client wants to create some EC2 machines inside the partition. Very good. We can create EC2 machines. That's not a problem. But the point is, in the real time, there will be different types of servers. In the real time, there will be different types of servers. Few servers will be web servers. Few servers will be application servers. Few servers will be database servers. There are different types of servers. So client wants to create some web servers. Client wants to create some 5 web servers. Client wants to create some 5 database servers. Assuming there are 2 types of servers. Assume that the client wants to create 5 EC2 machines. They want to install web servers, 5 web servers, and client wants to create some 5 database servers. This is the client requirement. So total 10 EC2 machines they want to create. So as per the concept where they have created VPC, now they want to create some 10 machines. Out of 10 machines, 5 machines are 5 EC2 machines are web servers, 5 EC2 machines are database servers. This is what they want to create. You can create directly. You can dump all the 10 machines inside the VPC, but that's not a good practice. That's not a good practice. As per the industry standard, create partitions inside the VPC. Create partitions inside the VPC. The partitions which we create inside the VPC, these partitions, okay, which we create inside the VPC, these partitions are called as subnets. What are subnets? Subnets are partitions created inside the VPC. It's always advised to create partitions inside the VPC. It's always advised to create partitions in the VPC. In other words, it's advised to create subnets. Let's say client wants to create 5 web servers. All the 5 web servers, all the 5 EC2 machines create in one partition. That is one subnet. Good. And all the database servers, place it in one partition. It's always modularity. It's always modularity. Don't directly dump all the servers you want to create inside the VPC. Partition is ready. Okay, I can play around my partition. Whatever I want, I can go ahead. You can go ahead and create it. That's not right. All this professional approach of building the client's infrastructure improves level of security. How it increases the level of security, we'll see it now. What is the advantage? Why are we creating subnets, Sunil? Directly, anyways, we have created a partition. Directly, we can create EC2 machines inside the partition. Is it compulsory? It's not compulsory. Never. You can directly create 10 machines inside the VPC only, but it is advised. Why it is advised? Because it increases the security. I repeat again, the highest concerns the clients have. The highest concern, clients are ready to pay thousands of dollars monthly. That's not a problem. They are worried about security. And AWS provides security to wherever possible. There's no compromise on security, especially with the AWS data center, AWS infrastructure, where AWS provides security wherever possible. And as per the policies, as per the AWS policies, you have to create partitions as an AWS engineer. You have to create partitions inside the VPCs, and all the web servers created in one partition, all the database servers created in another partition. These partitions which we create inside the VPCs are called as subnets. These partitions which I create inside the VPCs are called as subnets. Okay, Sunil, so you said first partition is VPC, and inside the VPC, you are saying again 2 more partitions. Okay, they are called as subnets. Now let's go ahead and create partitions inside the VPC. I want to create 2 partitions. One partitions for web servers. I want to name this partition as web SN, stands for web servers. And I want to name it as DBSN, stands for DB subnet. SN stands for subnet. It's not compulsory that the naming is ending with subnet. It's up to you. I want to create 2 partitions inside the VPC. These partitions which we create inside the VPC are called as subnets. My question, Sunil, so how to create these subnets? Okay, I'll show you. Within no time, you can create a subnet. When you're creating a subnet, you have to provide IP address followed with subnet mask. When you are creating a subnet, you have to provide IP address followed with subnet mask. I want to create a subnet, and the IP address which I want to use for this particular subnet is (10.0.1.0/24). When you're creating a subnet, you have to provide IP address followed with subnet mask, like something similar to VPC. For VPC also, you have provided IP address followed with subnet mask, right? You have done it. Similarly, when you're creating subnet also, you have to provide IP address followed with subnet mask. Based on the subnet mask where you are using, the size of the subnet will be determined. Based on the subnet mask value which you are using, the size of the subnet is determined. Now, in my first subnet, what is the subnet mask value I'm using? Please observe, in my first subnet, what is the subnet mask value I'm using? I'm using 24. In such case, if I use 24, what will be the size of the subnet? Let's go with the calculation. What is the maximum number allowed? The maximum subnet mask value is 32. Whether it is inside the it is for VPC or subnet, whatever it is. Technically, it is maximum number allowed is 32. Out of which, when I'm creating the first subnet, what is the subnet mask value I'm using? The subnet mask value I'm using is 24. So the difference is 8, right? The difference is 8, right? Yes. So the value is 2 to the power of 8. So what is the 2 to the power of 8 value? What is 2 to the power of 8? 256. What does that mean? That means I can create 256 EC2 machines inside the first partition. Got it? Number of EC2 machines allowed inside the web subnet is 256. The number of EC2 machines allowed inside entire VPC is what? 65,536, right? That's how the calculation goes. Clear? Clear about this? When I'm creating a second subnet also, when every subnet, you need to provide IP series followed with the subnet mask value. So here also I write 10.0.2.0/24. Here also I use 24 number. When it is 24, the size is the same. So here on the second subnet also I can have 256 machines. Clear? So this partition can have 256 machines. This partition can have 256 machines. 256 and 256 plus 256, 512 machines. The remaining out of 512 is 65,536 minus 512. What are the remaining EC2 machines? You can create it outside the subnet, inside the VPC. That's the concept here. Clear? Clear about this? So when you are creating a subnet, what is subnet? Subnet is nothing but a partition which you create inside the VPC. When you're creating subnet, you have to provide IP address followed with the subnet mask value. The subnet mask value I want to use it in my example is 24. Let's go ahead and create it. First, let's do practically. Practical is just 1 minute. Theory is more important here, especially in VPC. Practicals is very, very small. Within 2 minutes, you can do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a subnet. The first partition is nothing but WebSN. The IP address is 10.0.1.0/24, and second partition is DBSN. I want to provide 10.0.2.0. So let's do that. VPC you have created. Okay. Inside the VPC, I want to create subnets. Can you see in the dashboard we have subnets option? My dear friends, you can see the subnets option here. Yes. There are already 3 subnets. These are the predefined subnets. Don't disturb the predefined settings. These are there is one default VPC. Okay. The default VPC is having default subnets. So don't disturb the default settings in the VPC. Whatever you want, you create it. I want to create a subnet. Okay, create subnet. In which VPC you want to create the subnet? I want to create this subnet, right? Which VPC? You want to create it inside my VPC. So select it as my VPC. Don't create it in the default VPCs. Don't disturb the default settings. In your VPC, that is my VPC. What is the subnet name? Name can be anything. I can write Sunil also. As I'm using for web servers, I write it as WebSN. Availability zone. The Mumbai is having 3 availability zones. So okay, you can select any availability zone. I'm selecting it as 1A. And IP address followed the subnet mask value. The IP address which I want to use is 10.0.1.0/24. That's it. I have created one subnet. Then you have successfully created the first subnet. And you can see now the subnets. You can see these 1, 2, 3 are the predefined subnets inside the default VPC. And the last one is nothing but the new subnet which you have created. The name of the subnet is WebSN, which you have created inside my VPC. I'm done with creating the first partition inside the VPC. I want to create one more partition. Okay, what is the name of the partition you want to give? You want to give it for DBSN, right? You want to create for database servers. So that's a meaningful name. You can write it as DBSN. You don't want to write DBSN, you can write your name also. Name of the partition can be anything. That's not a problem. So I want to create one more subnet. And where you want to create second subnet. Second subnet also I want to create it in my VPC. Very good. What is the name of the subnet? Name can be anything. Scroll down. What is the name of the subnet? Okay. DBSN is the name of the subnet. Where do you want to create it in any availability zone? That's okay. I'm creating first availability zone. And what is the IP address followed is subnet mask value? So I want to use 2.0 series. Done. Done. Perfect. Then how many subnets I have created? 2 subnets. What are the names of the subnet? WebSN, DBSN. These 2 subnets are created inside your own VPC. That is my VPC. What is the size of WebSN? The size of the WebSN is 256 EC2 machines. What is the size of the second subnet? Second subnet size also 256 EC2 machines. What is the size of the VPC? My 65,536 is the size of the VPC. I'm sure many of you are having the questions. Sunil, why are you using 10.0.2.0? Sunil, why are you writing 10.0.1.0 in the subnet? Any specific reason what you want? There's no specific reason. You can use any number whichever you want. Okay. Is there any number? You can use any number you want. The point is the advantage what I can get it. Let's say, for example, I am creating an EC2 machine here inside the second subnet. That EC2 machine will have IP address. What IP address? Definitely it will start with 10 only because you have hard coded 10.0. You have written 2, so definitely start with 2.0. That will be the IP address of the first EC2 machine. Out of 256 EC2 machines, if you create one EC2 machine, it will take this IP address. If you create one more EC2 machine, it will take 10.0.2.1. Then one more EC2 machine, if you create, it will acquire 10.0.2.2. Like this, it will take the series of numbers. That's it. So the moment the advantage is nothing special. If the moment you see an IP address, if it is starting with 2 dot some number, it can be 2.2 or 2.10 or 2. The moment it acquires 2 dot series, then I can understand, okay, it is in the second subnet. The moment I see a EC2 machine, if it is saving 1 dot some number, it is understood that it's an IP address. First subnet belongs to. It's just for easy understanding purpose. Okay, I buy an apartment. The moment if my apartment number is 405, the moment I see an apartment number 405, I can easily understand it is in the 4th floor because starting with 4. If my apartment is something like 906, okay, I can easily understand it's in the 9th floor. In the same way, if an IP address is ending with something like 2 dot some number, it can be 2.2 or 2.10 or 2.15. If it is following that series, okay, I can easily identify, okay, it is in the second subnet. Okay, if the EC2 machine is in the 1 dot series, okay, I can easily identify that it is in the this EC2 machine belongs to first subnet. So that's how easy identification. It's everything in our control because these are all private IP addresses, not the public IP addresses. It's up to you. Am I clear? So am I clear? So I should be again repeating the partition which we create in the AWS data center, that is in our case Mumbai data center, which I'm using. That partition which you create in the AWS data center can be a 20 floors building, and each floor can have huge volumes of the data center. So creating your own partition in the Mumbai data center is nothing but VPC. So the first step what we need to do when a client wants to create EC2 machines inside the AWS, don't directly dump it. First we have to create a partition. Inside the partition, you can create few more partitions for easily managing the client's infrastructure. That partitions which we create inside the VPC is called as subnets. Let's say you bought a flat, your flat is your partition. In your flat, you again divide it into rooms, right? Puja room, bedroom, sitting room. You're creating partitions inside your own partition, inside your own flat. In the same way, inside our VPC, for better management of infrastructure, we can divide it into few more partitions. Those partitions which we create inside the VPC are called as subnet. And the subnet size is same calculation as VPC site. We'll be using the subnet mask value to determine the size of the subnet. Okay, the calculation is the same. I hope I am very clear in explaining you the importance of VPC and the importance of subnets. Okay, so let's have interaction. Akash Goyal.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I want to know that my question is that how to create an instance in a subnet.
How to create a EC2 machine inside the subnet.
Yeah.
We'll see it tomorrow. Once we have created what we have done, Akash, we have created one is VPC. Inside the VPC, how many partitions we have created inside the VPC?
2.
How to create EC2 machine inside the VPC? Inside the VPC also, I want to create it in the first subnet or in the second subnet. How to treat? We'll see it in tomorrow's session. Okay. And whenever you are creating, it's always good practice to remove. So what I have done. So where is our agenda? So we have created VPC and we have created subnet also. And public and private we have not discussed. We will be discussing that in the tomorrow's class. Before that, let's learn how to delete. So first, what we have to do, we have to delete subnets, innermost partitions, isn't it?
Yeah.
Akash.
Yes.
WebSN and DBS and other
DBSN
partitions. First, I'm deleting the subnets.
Okay.
Next. After deleting the subnet, next you have to delete the VPC also. VPC. This is the VPC, right? So actions, there's an option called don't delete the default VPC. When you delete the default VPC, be careful, your AWS account may not work also. So again, you need to talk to customer care. So delete VPC. So please type delete. The VPC will also be deleted. So like this, it's always good to create whatever after the session, delete whatever we have created. Akash, go ahead. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow, your question will be clear how to create a EC2 machine inside the VPC.
Okay, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Clavin Lev. Your question, please.
Yeah, hi Sunil.
Whatever I have explained, is it clear, Calvin?
Yeah, very clear, very clear. In fact,
thank you very much.
Just wanted to know about those recordings. I plan on buying them. So, how would you send me those recordings? Like through which
medium? May I know your location?
Yeah, it's Trichy, Tamil Nadu.
Did you make the payment of $9.99?
No, I'm going to make it today evening. That's why I wanted to know.
Once you make the payment, you will get in. You have to send the screenshot of the transaction to one email address. I hope you know that. Okay, it's mentioned in the WhatsApp group. So you'll get a reply and we'll share it in Google Drive.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Vignesh, your question, please.
Yep, Sunil.
Yep.
Sunil, like suppose like we are creating 2 EC machines. Okay.
Sorry, how many?
2 to the power of 32, something like that. Only one EC2 machine we are creating here.
We are creating one EC2 machine.
Only one EC2.
Where inside the first subnet or inside the second subnet?
Only one subnet we are taking. Only one subnet.
Okay, so let's say this 1 minute.
Okay.
1 minute. Let's 1 minute. Let's clear this for easy understanding.
Okay.
Okay. Now your question is, let's say we are creating one EC2 machine inside the first subnet.
Yep.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Suppose if the traffic gets increased, so how that it will take the IP address? I'm asking like. So we have seen this elastic load balancing, right?
Yes.
Suppose if the traffic gets increased, so how that if there is no IP address or we are allocating some part of the IP address?
Now what's happening here when the traffic is increased? Okay. The new is as per auto scaling concept. Your question is referring to auto scaling concept. Am I right, Vignesh?
Yep.
Whenever the traffic is getting increases, what's happening here? One more EC2 machine gets created. Agree?
Okay.
Agree? That's what happens. Agree, Vignesh?
Yep.
And then the new EC2 machine will be also automatically attached to the load balancer. You already have mentioned what load balancer it should get attached. It get automatically attached to the load balancer. And load balancer, anyways, the concept is the same. It takes the traffic from the DNS name. Okay. Vignesh, did I answer your question?
And one more question, Sunil. Yes. So all these are static IPs or dynamic IPs?
Which one?
So whatever we are allocating. Suppose
you're talking about 10.0. series.
Yep, exactly.
Now, before static and dynamic, first tell me whether it is private IP addresses or public IP addresses.
It's a public IP address. Yep.
This 10.0.1.0, whatever we are assigning, the series is in our control. Agree, Vignesh?
Yep.
This 10.0, instead of 10.0, I can use 50.0 also, whatever it is. Agree? Am I right, Vignesh?
Yep.
This IP addresses, what do you think? Are they private IP addresses or public IP addresses?
Public IP addresses.
No, these are private IP addresses. Okay. You cannot control the public IP addresses. Public IP addresses are provided by the internet service providers.
Okay.
Okay. So for example, right now my laptop is connected to internet. Am I right, Vignesh?
Yep.
What is my IP? 10.0.49. This is my IP address. From where I got it, this IP address, right? From my internet service provider.
ISP.
The moment ISPs will provide the IP addresses to the EC machines. Okay. So these IP addresses, whichever we are hard coding, the series is nothing but private IP addresses. Vignesh, okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. If it is private address, there is no concept of static at all. Okay.
Clear. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sajjan Kumar Shah.
Hello, am I audible?
You are audible, Sajjan. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah. Today's session is actually the most important and very easy.
Okay. Most important, and more than that, it's very easy. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it is easy. In fact, Sajjan, AWS is easy. That's what you have to say, isn't it? AWS
this is what I
simplified.
say because currently I'm working in a TCS in AWS also.
Okay, you already know all these concepts, Sajjan.
No, I'm in a training phase. It's been 7 months now.
Okay. So you joined in TCS and you have 7 months of experience.
Yeah, 7 months of experience in TCS.
Yes, good job. Yes, your question.
So my question is regarding this IP addresses. Like as you said, those IP addresses are like 10.0.1.0/24. So then there is a similar condition like rather than 24, we can use any other number. So
Okay.
how? Yeah.
I understand. This is not only for Sajan, it's many of you. It's very important for everybody. Sajan, what is the subnet mask value you have used in this example?
It's 16 for my VPS.
Your question is related to subnet, right?
Yes.
Now specific
yes.
to subnet. What is the subnet mask value you have used for first subnet?
It's 24.
So that means, tell me how many number of EC2 machines I can create here.
It will be like 32 minus 24, so 256.
You can create 256
yes.
EC2 machines inside the subnet. Okay.
Subnet. Yeah.
Let's say you created all the 256 machines. Your subnet is 100% full. Okay. Assume all the 256 machines you have created, Sajan. In such case, the first EC2 machine will be 10.0.1.0. Okay. Second one will be 10.0.1.1. Third EC2 machine will be 10.0.1.2. Yeah. And the last EC2 machine, 256th EC2 machine will be 10.0.1.255. Do you agree? Because one IP address cannot have maximum 255. This is networking concept. Agree? This will be the series of the IP address series. Do you agree?
Yes.
Clear? Clear?
Yes, clear.
Now, let's say you're not using 24. You're using 23. Okay?
Yes.
This is beyond calculation. Try to understand. 1.0 slash 23. Now, what will be the size of the subnet in such case? So, maximum number is 32. And minus, what is the number you are using? 23. What is the difference?
It will be 9.
9. So, 2 to the power of
9.
How much?
We have to calculate it.
2 to the power of 9. If 2 to the power of 8 is 256, 2 to the power of 9 will be 512. I think so. 512. Okay.
Okay.
That is 512 missions. Okay. But here, let's say 256 missions are already full. Okay. I cannot use 10.0.1.256, 257. You cannot go it because the series is limited to 55. In such case, are you understanding? In such case, you have to use the series as 10.1.0.0/23. This series you have to follow because once the maximum number 255 is allowed in the last one, again the next IP address will be 10. Sajan, are you understanding? 0.
Yes, I'm understanding.
2.0. It starts with 2 series. Are you understanding?
Yes.
2.1, 2.2, 2.3. Again, the last number will be 2.255. Got it?
255.
Sorry, it should be 1.
Yeah.
10. Here you have hard-coded 1, right? 1.2.1, 2.2, like your vehicle numbers. Okay. Are you understanding?
Okay. Yes.
Are you understanding? Did I answer your question, Sajan?
Yes. Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Just last thing. I need a tip regarding cloud formation template.
You have?
I need a tip regarding a cloud formation service.
Tell me.
Yeah. Actually, I am facing a problem to create my custom template. Yeah. But I am very much comfortable to use that sample templates. So means what I should do, where should I learn?
When you are creating customized template, you have to follow what all infrastructure you are creating inside the template. Okay. Let's say if you're creating EC2 machine, you have to clearly mention where exactly you want to create the EC2 machine inside VPC, inside which subnet. So the dependencies you depending upon the object you're planning to create, whether you want to create a EC2 machine or you want to create a root 53 policy, whatever it is, you look for the dependencies. You have to satisfy the dependencies, then only you'll get the final infrastructure gets created. Okay, Sajan? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not satisfying the dependencies. That's the reason.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sushmita, your question, please. I can see your hand raised, Sushmita. You are allowed to unmute first. You have to unmute first and then talk. 10F, INC 7 Orion.
Yeah, Sunil, actually, my name is Sudhir.
Okay, Sudhir, how are you doing?
I have a doubt here. What would be the subnet mask IP? I mean, we are using 255.255.255.0 like that, no?
Where
So
are we
how to
using? No, tell me, where are we using?
No, suppose if we are using 192 series.
Where? You're talking about subnet level or you're talking about my VPC level?
Not VPC level, subnet level only.
Okay,
when
subnet level, tell me.
When we are
Let me take a
providing
note of
IP,
Let me take a note of it. Tell me what range of IP address you want to use.
Yeah, when the subnet is assigning IP to EC2, it will give a subnet mask also, right? 255.255.some.
No, subnet mask we need to provide, Sudhir.
So how to determine the subnet mask based on these subnet?
Subnet is a partition, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say client wants 100 web servers.
Yeah.
Okay. Client wants to create, generally client's requirement is they have to have 100 web servers. Okay. Now is 24 a right number for 100 web servers?
Yes.
Yes, you are right. How
Because
did you determine? 254. So 254 is more than enough, right? So it's always better to give 24. If you don't give 24, let's say for example you have provided let's say 28. Okay, 28 you have provided. So the calculation is 32 minus 28. So the answer is 4. 2 to the power of 4 is nothing but 8, I think so, right? 2 power 8. So if the client requirement is 100 web servers, if you create a subnet mask value as 28, definitely you cannot satisfy the client requirement.
Yeah, Sunil, maybe
so
I asked in the wrong way.
We have to identify the size of that. We have to identify the nature of that servers, how many servers they are using. Accordingly, you have to determine the size.
No.
Okay, now change
Sunil,
your question.
maybe I put my question in wrong way.
Yes,
if suppose we are assigning IP 192.168.0.
We will not assign. We will not assign. You're talking about EC2 mission or you're talking about subnet?
Subnet at
tell me.
EC2 mission level. So we are using, when we are assigning IP in the IP4 series in the network card level.
Tell me, what is the number?
We are, suppose 192.168.0.
1 minute. Give me time. 192.168.1.1 slash?
Yeah. No. I'm talking about EC2
EC2 mission IP address.
Yeah,
you're talking about EC2. Let's say this is a okay. Let me draw it. This is a EC2 mission.
Yeah.
If this EC2 mission is acquiring an IP address 192.168.1.1.
Yeah, the
Agree?
subnet mask would,
Yes. Now tell me. Subnet mask.
The second column we are assigning subnet mask also, not 255.255.255.
Where did we assign?
0. In the network card level.
No. Tell me here. That is in the on-premises infrastructure. Okay. Sudhir?
Okay.
This is AWS cloud. Where did I use 255?
So it's automatically determined?
No, it's not in our control. It automatically determines. Okay. Got it?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
Clear now.
So you are talking about the network configuration settings done at the Windows environment. Agree?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Here it's not the case. This is completely different. It's on cloud. It behaves like this. Okay. Clear, Sudhir?
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, clear. Thanks, Sunil.
Thank you. One more final call. Interesting. Tomorrow, please don't miss tomorrow's session because we will be discussing about private subnet and public subnet. What is private subnet? What is public subnet? Why should we create public subnet? What is the importance of private subnet? Very frequently asked interview question. Okay, Chandrakant Bharadwaj.
Hey Sunil, how are you?
I'm doing well, Bharadwaj. How are you doing?
I'm
You're
enjoying.
from which location?
I'm in Delhi.
Okay, good. Yes. How is the session today?
Session is not only for today, but since the time I am joining, it has been like a very wonderful session. A tremendous doing.
Thank you. Your experience, please.
I have experience of around 15 years.
On which platform?
I work on to multiple technologies, and primarily I've been into data protection. I am working as a backup station.
Wow. Okay. On VMware?
Including VMware. But I work on multiple, multiple backup technologies.
Okay, very good. So how is your learning experience? You know AWS before? It's the first time you're learning.
No, I didn't know. I was a big zero about it, but now I'm too much confident about this since that time.
Okay. Chandrakant, as you are especially in the security background, isn't it? And you love this VPC. We are just in the beginning. The more the detailed concepts we get into, something like private subnets, how to make it private, how to stop the incoming connections. Chandrakant, if you suspect a particular IP address, how do you stop it? Okay, what is stateful and stateless in nature, and everything, you'll enjoy it in the coming classes.
Okay, fine.
This is just the beginning of VPC.
Yeah.
Yes, your question.
Okay, so man, I just need one small help from you and another question. I have two things to ask.
Yes.
Firstly, a small thing. I need a favor from you. I need to prepare my CV as per the classes we are doing, like
okay.
on AWS. So if you could just provide some template or something.
We
like
already have sample profiles on our Telegram group. Are you in our Telegram group?
I am there, but I haven't seen any.
If you search in the Telegram group, you'll get it. Otherwise, send an email to support@Logic.Labs. You have our support email address, right? Requesting for sample resumes on AWS. You'll get the reply.
Sure, I'll send an email.
Next.
Okay. Secondly, nothing related to VPC, but to the command line interface. I tried to create an EC2 instance using CLI. I was not able to do it. If you could
That's
just
a long
show me.
process. If time permits, I'll do that, Chandrakant, definitely.
Okay, because S3 I was able to perform mostly most of the functions, whatever were there.
Okay. Generally, easy to machine creation, it happens either the console or by using a tool called Terraform. Okay. Generally, command line is not preferred, but there is a process. Okay. We'll consider.
Okay, fine.
Anything more, Chandrakant?
Nothing. That's it.
Continue learning AWS. Okay, and enjoy the VPC.
Yeah, sure, man. Thank you so much.
Don't miss the next 3 to 4 classes. That's very
definitely.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, man.
Bye, everybody. Thank you all. I hope you have enjoyed. You also just create a VPC and then create a subnet and just delete the VPC and delete a subnet. So much more interesting concepts of VPC in tomorrow's session. Okay. Have a nice time. Bye, everybody. Thank you very much.